We're talking about the challenges as well as the rewards that come with Black entrepreneurship, specifically about the challenges and the rewards that come with Black gay entrepreneurship. And here to share his journey as a businessman and an entrepreneur is Greg Etienne with Alchy Cocktails. Greg, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on here, Samson.
We got to talk about you. Tell us where you're from and, what were some of your earliest experiences like?
I'm originally from Boston. I'm Haitian, first generation Haitian. Both of my parents are from Haiti. Spent some time in Atlanta, currently now in Washington, D.C. And Washington, D.C. so far, I've been here for 9 years, has been sort of like really incredible in terms of like just my growth professionally and even academically. I finished my 2 degrees while I've been here in DC online. And then I started a business here in DC. Originally, the business was named Bottled. I actually started the business with a partner that I was with before, and we separated eventually. And then I changed the name to Alchy Cocktails. And so Alchy Cocktails is alchemy and alcohol. It's a ready-to-drink cocktail business based right here in Washington, D.C., Black, gay, DC owned, where I make ready-to-drink craft cocktails. So I make all of the cocktails and the syrups. I batch those cocktails and I bottle them up. And currently, the way that I sort of share my work with other people and sell my work to other people is doing a lot of farmers markets in the city. Also getting into some retail spaces in DC, and really just getting my name out there with brand awareness throughout the area. So it's been a very interesting ride. Of course, I worked in customer service and tech before doing this, and then in 2022, I started doing the business full time, and it's definitely been a very interesting ride.
Congratulations on those 2 degrees. What did you study?
My bachelor's was in information technology. I got that from Southern New Hampshire University. And then 2 years later, I got my master's in cyber investigations and digital forensics. And then, yeah, shortly after getting my master's, I left my job and started doing the business.
So, what caused the shift from the career that you were in to you being an entrepreneur?
The shift occurred during the pandemic, and um, it is not lost on me on being able to start a business during what was probably for our generation the worst time in our lives. Millions of people died, lots of people lost their jobs, and their entire lives have changed for forever, right? And so here I am starting a business. And so during the pandemic, I did a virtual happy hour for Cinco de Mayo,
Okay.
and then just started to grow my bar there because we had to make different drinks. And then me and my friends were going to Navy Yard, which is the waterfront here in DC. And that's how we were able to get together and fellowship and hang out because they wanted us to be outside. We couldn't be inside. And so I was batching cocktails for us to enjoy. And their feedback was like overwhelming. And so it just evolved into like, okay, maybe this is a business. And before that, I had never had any thoughts of being a business owner. That moment literally sparked an entrepreneurial spirit. And it's been 5 years since then. So that is what kind of like shifted me into that. And for a while I was doing, of course, full-time job and then working on the business as well. And then some things happened, life happens, and I left the job and just continued to do the business full time.
Leaving a job, especially you talking about security here, like a secure, this is, a check is coming every week, every 2 weeks, you salaried, you know,
Woo!
you got benefits. Jumping into the world of entrepreneurship, let's talk
Woo!
about the fears that you faced there. What was that like?
I think about that. I'm like, man, I'm like, I'm chasing the dollar right now because I'm like, yo, it's a grind when you're an entrepreneur. Like the money is not the same as if when I was working. I was getting paid really well. The benefits were amazing. But the job that I had at the time, they decided to eliminate my position. I started applying to other jobs after that, and I got like three offers. And the offers were pretty decent. They were actually with pretty good organizations, And like subconsciously, I would find something small to be like, this isn't the right fit. Or I would try to counter and they wouldn't counter back and they were like, nah. So I would like, I think I was like, trying to find something to be able to justify me saying no. And ultimately, I didn't take any of those offers. And I think subconsciously, I was just like, maybe I kind of want to do this business full time. You know what I'm saying? And so when that particular company decided to eliminate my position, of course, it hit me hard because it was out of nowhere. It was a surprise. It was a shock. 2 weeks after that, literally 2 weeks after that, I went to a pitch competition, which was during Something in the Water, which is a music festival that Pharrell does almost every year. But that particular year, he did it in DC. It's usually in Virginia Beach. So they had a pitch competition. So once I heard about this pitch competition, I had never done pitches ever in my life before that. But I was so like obsessed about going to this pitch competition and pitching. I was obsessed about getting there early. Thankfully, I got to be like the seventh person in line, and the line just grew after that. Thankfully, I was able to pitch. There were people that got into line that didn't get to pitch. At that time, the business was 2 years old. So like there are people in line that I've met during those 2 years from like just doing the business. And so we were there to support each other. One of the great things about that moment was even though we were all there to pitch and compete for the same money, we were all there just supporting each other. And these were all Black, brown, queer entrepreneurs, like there to pitch their businesses. And even though we were competing with each other, we were all supporting each other. The love was just so amazing. And my
Ask you a
part,
quick question about that, because that is
yeah,
a challenge for a lot of minorities in particular, because we feel like there can only be one or like resources are limited. So is that something that you were able to learn early on in life, or was there a particular part of your journey that taught you how to support other Black people and other Black queer people?
I think I've always just been supportive in general. I do see how people can be a bit gatekeeper-ish or like try to save certain things
Yeah.
for themselves because it could be limited. And it can be a little hard. And I also remember just like in my field in alcohol in general, like there was one moment where like um when I was going to my loctician and I knew that he already had like he had an alcohol person that she would come around and like sell her stuff in the salon or whatever. Since I knew that, I never mentioned the business to him at all. And it
Okay.
wasn't until like I don't know what happened and it came up. I was like, yeah, I didn't want to bring it up because I didn't want there to sort of be like any competition because I know you already got somebody. And he was like, nah. He was like, everybody can win. Like it doesn't matter. She got it, you got it, everybody can come in and get a little bit and stuff like that. So it doesn't matter. And so that mentality helped me to be understand like, yo, like there's so much for everyone. And there literally is. Like there's so much room for everyone to get love and get something and get business. When it comes to funding, that can be a little difficult. And so that's why these pitch competitions are so important. And so that's why that particular pitch competition was critical, was in because I won that pitch competition. So I won the grand prize, which was $10,500. But one of the more amazing points about that particular moment was that Pharrell was there, and there was no plan for him to be there. He had came out of nowhere, so I got to pitch for him for a moment. He understood the importance of there being a Black queer business owners. Like he understood the importance of Black queer entrepreneurship, and he mentioned that when they were coming up with a decision to pick the winners. You know what I'm saying? And so he handed me the check, and with that money, I used that money to move my business operations from my apartment into a commercial kitchen, which I still operate in till this day, which changed the direction of the business completely from that day on. And I'm just so humbled to have had that opportunity.
You talk about having this, exchange with Pharrell about the importance of Black queer representation in the entrepreneurship space. For you as a Black same gender loving man, why is representation important in the entrepreneurial space for us?
There are a lot of people that are doing things that are not comfortable with saying, hey, I'm Black, I'm Haitian, I'm queer, because they're afraid that they may alienate themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is a wrong way to look at things, because not, and naturally, not everyone is out here to also help other people. Some people are
Right.
just like, yo, I'm here to support my family. I'm here to support myself. Whatever sort of residual stuff that help, that's fine. But I'm not here specifically like saying, hey, I want to help these other people. But for me, I think it's important for other Black queer people to say, like, oh, this person is doing it. And also for other young kids, whether they're queer kids or not, to see that this Black man is doing this Black business and growing it from the ground up, and they can see how that goes. And I think the significance of being able to see that representation is incredibly important. And one of the things I think about recently is about Bayard Rustin and
Yes.
learning about Bayard Rustin's history. We all grew up knowing how important and how impactful the March on Washington was. But I think about, if I knew as a little Black boy that the person responsible for that was a Black gay man, how would that have changed my view on anything, to know that, man, this so important thing was was run by this Black gay man who was unapologetically gay. But there were so many moments in his life where they were told him, like, yo, no, you need to step back, chill out a little bit. And to learn that, what would that have done for me to know that this important event in our life, in our history, American history, was because of a Black gay man?
Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah.
Greg, knowing this and being aware of our history and our impact as Black gay people on the community and in the world, when you come into our community, do you feel supported?
There are mixed feelings about that. Um, oh man. One of the things that I've learned is that, like, and because I'm in commerce, I'm in retail, and so there are specific psychological things that humans do in general
Mm-hmm.
in the retail space, and even just in the sort of like retail space that I'm in. So the retail space I'm in is in like farmers markets, where people are walking up and down roads looking at different vendors. And they're looking at the different products that people have, but they're also looking at the different people that are selling the products, right?
Yeah.
And so I noticed that, like, for Black men, they're a little hesitant to walk up to me as a Black man who's selling there as a vendor, not even specifically just because of my product, but like I think there's some hesitation there to engage with a Black man in that space.
Why do you
Notice,
think that is?
I have no idea. I've been trying to look at it and think about it, but it's like Black men are very hesitant to just approach me and engage with me in markets. Most times when they do, it's because their girl is there. Like, Black women, listen, they are my biggest, biggest, like, supporters. And so usually they'll bring their husbands or their friends that are with them, and they'll be like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And because they are like raving about the cocktails, then the man will try it, and I'll just be like, oh yeah, this is really good. But I also know that with like also Black queer men, and because as Black queer men, we're also like self-conscious about what people think about us.
Yeah.
They may be a little bit hesitant to approach. And so even like I was just talking about this past weekend, we were at a gay club, and one of my friends says that he specifically compliments men while we're in the club. And I was like, wow, like that he intentionally just does that. And he's a life coach anyway. He's a life coach. So this is like something he does to like he just fills people up, you know what I'm saying? But he loves to just compliment people because he like, I just want to big up my community. And I was like, that's so important, especially in this space, because even though we are in this Black queer space, which is a safe space, we're not really engaging with each other. We're only engaging with the people that we know, right? And a lot of us are looking at each other like, oh, look at what he like. Some of us are like, oh, I like, oh, he looks good. Or Or we're looking at other folks like, girl, what? Why did you? Why did you put that on? And so we're
Sizing each
all
other up.
being very right. So we're all being critical of each other. And so I think for us in general, we are very stressed. We're very anxious about what people are thinking of us, how people will react with us. And so there have been some queer organizations that have been very supportive, and there have been some that are very hesitant to support. I
Mm,
don't know what those reasons are. However, one of the things that I continue to do is I continue to reach out. Because one thing I don't want people today to do is like, oh, I didn't even know you existed.
right.
No, but you know I exist. I've reached out for you to support and how we can support each other. And so I don't never want there to be a situation of like, oh, I didn't know you existed. I didn't know that this business existed in this space, right? And so I continue to reach out, and hopefully there's a day that that particular organization will say, you know what, I have an opportunity for you. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm grateful for the organizations in this, space that have continued to support me and continue to uplift my brand as a Black queer entrepreneur. But yeah, there are some challenges sometimes. When I thought about getting into like liquor stores, I thought like if I went to the Black owned liquor stores, that it would be a no-brainer. That it would be like, oh, absolutely. Like you're
Mm,
legit, you have all your things in place. This is a great product. Absolutely. Let's get you on the shelf, even if it's just for even if it's just for an introductory period to see how people react to it.
yeah.
That has not been the case.
Mm,
So the conversation that I have had with the Black owned liquor store spaces have not been as easy as I thought it would be. And I don't know what those reasons are. But it has been other communities that have been a little bit more like, oh, of course, absolutely, no problem, let's do it. And I've been like, oh, that's really interesting.
let's talk about some of your biggest challenges as an entrepreneur. What are some of your biggest challenges that you're facing, and what has been one of your biggest challenges that you've overcome thus far?
In order for me to really scale the business to where I want to go, funding is going to be incredibly important. Because right now I'm still a one-man show. Occasionally, I might hire folks to assist with markets and with production. But to really scale the business and move this business to the next level, it's really going to be funding to be able to hire people so I can get to the next level. So
Hmm.
that's always going to be number one. As I said, I do a lot of markets in the area. I do farmers markets everywhere. So that means I have to bring equipment, I have to set up equipment, I have to break down equipment. And so that means you have to have a car to
Yes.
transport that equipment to bring those things around. The thing is, I do not have a car.
You don't
I
have a
have not,
car.
I do not have a car, and I have not had a car since I've been here in DC. And I have tried to like also like apply for grants and different funding to get enough money to buy a car. But that has not happened, right? And so I've had to try to find some very creative ways to have access to a car. Of course, I've rented cars from like, national rental places.
And real quick, when you have to rent cars, that also cuts into the budget for the business where you already are trying to make money.
That is correct. That is
Okay.
correct. But you know what they say, you got to spend money to make money, right? And so, like, if I don't show up to these markets, I'm not going to make any money. And so sometimes, yes, I have to sacrifice and pay money to rent these cars, right? And so, I've also used friends' cars. Friends have allowed me to use their cars to get around at markets. So, most of my friends, they kind of work from home or they're at work, so they allow me to use their cars when they're at work. But most recently, one of the ways that I've been able to get access to a car for more long-term access is through Uber. And the way that works is Uber has a process where you can rent a car through one of the larger rental brands, but it's through Uber rental, right? And so what happens is once you rent the car, you use the car to do Uber rides, right? And so I currently do Uber rides to have access to a car. And so
Mm.
what I do is I do enough rides per week so that it pays for the car each week so that I'm not paying like money that I've made from the markets for the car. But the thing is, I'm also spending time doing those things, right? I'm spending time that I would prefer to be working on the business doing the
Yeah.
rides. But I am incredibly grateful that I have access to a car, that I can get up if I need to do errands. I can go around and do errands because otherwise, if I needed to get up right now and go run errands to, sort of like re-up on inventory that I need to do production, I would either have to call an Uber to get me around, or I would have to rent a car to get around, or I'd have to call a friend to get around. And sometimes I'm like taking the train to go get a car. I'm taking an
Hmm.
Uber to go get a car.
Are
And
you ever on the train with your product sometimes headed to sell?
yeah, so I've not done that before, but I have like called an Uber to be able to like call, come pick me up, pack up the car, bring me to a market or pick me up from a market to do that. Yeah. But I've definitely taken the train to go shopping for, inventory and stuff like that and things like that. And the thing is you gotta do what you gotta do. And that's one of the things that I love about my mentality. I never let any challenge or adversity take me down or prevent me from doing what I need to do to continue to grow the business. And so I'm happy that I found the solution with the car. I know that it's not a complete long-term solution, but it works for right now. And it has been working really well. And I am knocking on wood. Thank you so much. So it's been incredibly helpful to have access to a car. It's definitely a huge peace of mind, but it is definitely one of my hugest challenges. It's definitely up there with funding because I need to get around. And it's so annoying and inconvenient when I have to keep, doing this back and forth about getting access to a car.
As an entrepreneur, you're constantly problem solving. You're constantly facing these hurdles that you have to clear. How do you implement stress management, or how do you manage anxiety or dealing with problems?
That is a good question. Right now, I am not really doing much to manage stress and anxiety.
Mm.
And however, I do know that I need to.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, the one thing that has been helping me is community, right?
Yes.
And so that has definitely been the best part of growing this business. I see other people. I'm going to be honest with you. I think there are other people, they see me at the markets, especially some of the other vendors, and they see my friends pop up on me and they be like, yo, you have some really good friends.
Yeah.
And that for me, they're like, yo, you have some really good friends. Because they will pop up on me and then they get into action. They help. They talk about the product to customers that walk up. They'll help me break down. They'll help me set up. My best friend, Sean, he's always there. Like he pops up on me at least once a week, sometimes twice a week at different markets that I do each week. The friends part, the community part that I have, my friends are definitely the MVPs of this
Yeah.
because they support me in a way that I didn't know. And I always say to myself, like, I don't know what I did to deserve these people in my life, right? But it's like the work that I did to grow the kind of friends that I have right now, I think was for a reason and was for this time. Because regardless of all the challenges that I have right now, my friends have been the people that like ground me and really like make sure that I'm okay. For instance, right now, like I actually am living with a friend right now because I had to move out of my apartment so that I can focus more on the business. And the friend it was no question. Like one time the friend came to my house and was like, hey, you want to move in? I was like, oh my gosh. I never even mentioned this to this person, but I was in the moment. I was like trying to build up the courage to ask the friend, like, hey, can I move in for a while to really like focus on the business until I get to a place where I can do my own thing? And that person never even allowed me to do that. They offered it on their own already. And so those are some of the things as a business owner was just like my friends have been super supportive and helped me to just continue to grow the business. And they all believe in the business. They all are like fanatics about the business. Wherever they go, they're more fanatics about the business than I am sometimes. Because like
Yeah.
wherever I go, they be like, "Oh, do you know what business he had? Do you know that?" And so it's always so amazing, and I love my friends for that.
Let's talk about, work-life balance. Of course, as somebody who's busy all the time, how do you balance it with your life? How does this affect your dating life? How does this affect other areas of your life where you get to be Greg and have fun or exist?
When it comes to like trying to date, you want to be available, and sometimes you can't always be available. And I'm trying hard to be intentional about that as well too. And I think one of the things we don't talk about is love and companionship and entrepreneurship.
Mm,
And it's a really hard thing to do because you need to be able to find someone who can understand the complex sort of like landscape of trying to date someone who's like trying to build a business and
yeah.
whose focus is mostly on the business. And honestly, let's be completely real, there's no focus even on themselves. So like you're trying to date someone whose most of their focus is on their business. They're not focusing on their personal life, like their personal well-being, like their health, and that you're also trying to be, in their life as well too. So I've been trying to make time and be intentional to, have some kind of love life, to have some level of companionship, and that's a little bit difficult sometimes because it's like I'm not always available. I'm not always available to hang out. But I also noticed that like I do find time to be with friends. And I've been thinking to myself, I was like, okay, I probably need to also find that same level of priority to be with someone that I'm talking to. But I find myself having very low tolerance and very low, like, sort of like patience for like people that are non-friends because I'm just like, I'm already dealing with like so much anxiety and stress from growing a business. I don't want to really deal with the same level of anxiety and
Nobody's
stress.
son stressing you out.
That part. So I'm really trying to get to a point where I'm just like, okay, I can make some time for this person. Although I have all these emails, I have all this work that I could be doing, you know what? I'm going to take a break. Let's go hang out, let's chill and stuff like that. And I try to make sure that I'm not thinking about work. I make a conscious effort to put my phone in silent and just put it in my pocket. So I'm not fidgeting with the phone. I'm not checking emails. I'm not looking at messages. I'm not, I'm being really focused in that hangout because I know that like if I take that phone out, I'm gonna look at messages. I'm gonna look at DMs in Instagram because there could be some business that I'm missing at the time. But I'm like, you know what? I can wait, be intentional in this moment, be present, and then I can respond to those messages later.
So you spend a lot of time working. What makes great business? What makes a good, solid business? And what does work ethic mean to you?
Really believing in yourself and believing in the product that you put out is incredibly important because then people see that passion, they see the love that you put into it, regardless of what else that you're dealing with. They see the passion. And so when people interact with me, they see how passionate I am about the cocktails. And one of the things that I was like, what's your favorite? I make all these cocktails, so they're all the favorites. But yes, there's some of them that I like more than others. But one of the things that I also say, each cocktail has a different mood. Honestly,
Mm.
all of my cocktails have a different character. And so they're going to bring out a different person in you every time, depending on which cocktail that you have. But it's also just going to be about like being yourself as well. People always talk about being yourself, being genuine and stuff like that. It is not always easy to be yourself, to be genuine, and to just show up as yourself because we know there are certain spaces that don't accept us for who we are, right? And it's not so easy to be like, oh, I'm gonna show up as myself. But like, I think being an entrepreneur and doing something that is my own, it allows me to do whatever I want to do, and it allows me to show up as who I am, and that's how I show up. And so I am laughing, I am kikiing with customers that they are trying my cocktails, and we're having a good old time, and I'm there as myself,
Yeah.
and it is such a great moment. Even when like in some spaces that I do farmers markets, there are also some unhoused folks. And so those moments are a little bit more difficult because we know they may be dealing with drug addiction or alcoholism. But at the same time, I also don't want to make them feel less than human, right? And so
Right.
I'm engaging and interacting with them as well. I might deal with them a little bit differently than I would deal with someone that I know is going to be a customer. But at the same time, I want them to feel welcome and engaged. And so knowing that I interact with, the unhoused folks that way, that's the same level of care that I'm giving to anyone who comes to my table to even ask to taste. And a lot of people are like, oh, I can't buy anything right now, but this is really great. And one of the things that people don't know is that like I get more pleasure from you tasting the cocktails and telling me how much you love it than you buying it. Of course, I want to make money. Of course, I'm here to, make money and make profit. But honestly, I get pleasure from you saying like, "Yo, this is really good." And if you tell your friend, you follow, you post it, you share it, and be like, "Yo, I just tried this a really great cocktail." That gives me so much more pleasure than like, you actually having to purchase right now. And I don't care if you can't purchase it right now, because one thing that I think is going to happen is I think it'll sit with you, right?
Yeah.
And then you try like, yo, that cocktail was really good. But now you know the brand, you've seen the brand. And a lot of times what I see is because I'm in so many different spaces in DC, I'll be at another market and that person will be with friends with like, oh my gosh, I tried that before and it is so good. And so they all
Yeah.
stop and they all try. Sometimes they'll all buy. And so having those moments, just because you don't buy now doesn't mean you won't buy later, or it doesn't mean that your influence and the impact that you had when you tried it before won't create more customers in the future. So I'm not one of the things about being a salesman, I'm not one of those salesmen that's like, come try this, come try this. You need to try this right now. I'm not one of those salesmen where I'm getting in your face. Well, I'm like, oh, you need to try this right now. Getting in your face, like, oh, try this. I'm the type of person to tell you, like, hey, this is what this is. If you're interested, you can come try it, and then we can talk from there. And then I'm not the type of person to be like, oh, just because you tried something that you need to buy something. No, if you're not ready to buy right now, that's okay. But you know about the business now and you know how good this is. So now you have that information that you can share with other people. And I love that.
You're at this very important time, in your entrepreneurial journey. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, where do you see the business? What is your vision for Alchy Cocktails?
That's a good question. And I think all the time I think about where I would like the business to go. There are so many different directions. One of the things that I want to do is allow the customers in the business to dictate where it goes. As I drive around the city, I always see vacant spaces that look like they could be a distillery that I could possibly occupy one day and create a sort of like event restaurant slash distillery space that is Black queer owned and also just sort of like a mecca for just Black spirits and minority spirits in general.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a friend said something to me yesterday that was really sort of like mentioning something I've been thinking about because I do so many markets, and that person has seen me at different markets that I've done. And they were like, you're going to do a market one day. You're going to like put together a really good market. And one of the things that I've been thinking about, because I think farmers markets and markets in general are such a huge impact to small businesses in different localities everywhere, that like if I were to open a distillery, I would like to also have some outside space where I could have markets to showcase Black businesses on a regular basis. And so when he said that, I was like, man, that's on like that's like my vision plan to be able to do that on a regular basis to really highlight some of these great brands. And when you go to these markets, there are so many great brands out there that are doing such great work and that are providing and selling great stuff that I also like, buy from all the time when I'm in their presence.
If you had any advice to give to other, Black men who are in entrepreneurship or particularly, Black, gay, queer, bisexual men who are entrepreneurs, are working to get in the entrepreneurial space, be business owners, what advice would you offer them? And then lastly, for those of us who want to support you more,
Yep.
how can we support you?
One of the things that I would give recommendation for in terms of anyone who wants to start a business is just do it.
Yeah,
What happens is we spend a lot of time trying to perfect everything and try to make sure that everything is perfect before we do it. And it doesn't have to be perfect.
yeah,
It really doesn't. Um, like when we started the business, we did not have a website. The website was a Google form. It was a janky Google form that worked at the time. But over time, we built and got a website. But yeah, I would just say just do it. Don't don't like get caught up in the this needs to be done, that needs to be done. Just do it and then work on perfecting it over time. That's like my biggest thing. Because what happens is, as people that are, if you're getting into business, you're going to be critical about having everything in line, being a perfectionist and stuff like that. And so just work on it over time. Don't try to get everything done all at once. You can find Alchy Cocktails in Washington, D.C. You can check out our website, drinkalchy.com. So that's drinkalchy, ALCHY.com. You can also find us on all social media sites at drinkalchy, ALCHY. You'll see on my shirt here, it says, I'm an Alchy. And so Alchy, the company, ALCHY, is the name of the business. Alchemy and alcohol cocktails. And then I'm an Alchy is just a fun and playful way to say I'm an alcoholic or I'm an alchemist. And so that is what I am. I'm an alchemist. I make the cocktails. I make specific measurements of ready to drink craft cocktails. I make all of the syrups. So there's a rosemary lemonade that I make with fresh rosemary. There's a basil simple syrup that I make with fresh basil. There's an almond syrup that I make for one of the cocktails. And then there's another cocktail where I infuse the mezcal with jalapeno. But you can pop up in DC at some of the markets. You can check out the website. You can check out social media to see where I am. You can also order if you're in DC. I do pickup and delivery in DC. And you can check us out. And I appreciate you so much, Samson, for having me. And for anyone else who watches this, thank you so much for listening to my story, for sharing this with whoever you decide to share this with, and telling people about my business, but also for anyone who gets any inspiration from this, for anyone who has any questions. I'm also open book. I've had to go through so many things to start this business, to continue to run this business, that I think I could probably provide some answers to people so that they don't have to search for those answers, to make it easier for them. And I also want to be that person to be like, hey, like, what is this process that I need to go to make it easier for other people that are coming up as well too?